So here's a quick hand I played the other night. It was a heads-up tournament on Ignition. I made a couple mistakes here, so I wanted to chart the mistakes and see how I can improve. So here is the hand right here, heads up early in the tournament, and I'm play it. So I have Ace Jack. I do a standard open. Let me pull it back here. So I min raise 80. Call. I've been min raising pretty much what I do heads up. I guess I could raise higher, but I just tend to min raise. So we can talk about that. So the flop comes. I flop a top pair on a pretty, not a completely dry board, but two broadways and the flush there. So I check. I think that was a mistake, but there's bigger mistakes to come. I usually take a check line and check call to basically get villain to bluff into me, especially on an ace board. But I think in retrospect, heads up, I'm so wide with a min raise from the button, I should have just let out here. In any case, he checks behind. Villain checks, and then I check behind. Turn comes Jack of Spades. So now the board is double suited, and I turn two pair. So villain leads out. What would he lead out with here? Well, two pair. I think he would have raised all the sets except for maybe sevens. Jack King, his possibility. Suited Jack King, Ace Jack as well. There's less combos. Ace 7 maybe. Ace 7 of I have the spade blocker, so there's really not less suits. Maybe 10 queen of diamonds, 10 queen of spades. I put this incorrect. So anyway, I raise his bet. I think I should have raised more. And villain calls. The river comes, and the fifth spade hits. Villain checks. And this is where I spent most of my analysis on whether I should lead or check behind. So I wanted to look at the equity of both lines. So here it is. I'm going to pull up Krev here. Card runners. And so I have several different versions I ran here. Let me open up. So check behind river. So here is the check behind river line. I didn't have the import file, so I just built it. It's pretty accurate. So I've got villains. That's my range, but it narrows out post flop, so I get the suited hands. I put villain on this range. Tuesday, it's basically is the range I have. Tuesday, it's all the suited. This is pretty standard, 71% opening. Maybe a little bit wider, but I want it to be kind of worst case scenario. Anyway, flop comes. I check. Or I'm sorry, villain checks. I didn't filter out any of his range that would have bet the flop. In this version, I check behind. Here's where I filter down to my hand, my actual holding. On the big blind, the big blind bets out on the turn. And so I have him betting out with top pair, two pair, sets, straights, flush draws, open and straight draws. If I run F5, that's 31% of big blind's range. And then I raise, and then I narrow its range down further of that. He's calling 72% of the range that he opened with and folding out the rest. Looks like he's folding out. Can't remember what he's folding out. Guess when I run the equities, it'll show up. Anyway, I'll run the equities right now. And let's see what we got here. So, yeah, folding out all the weaker suited aces, I guess. Yeah, all the top pair hands. So when I raise, I have the top pair hands folding out, basically. That's that 25% range. It's really interesting. And so then in the river, big blind checks. I have the big blind checking all their hands. I guess I could edit that to have hands that they would lead out with, like nut flushes. I think I could probably remove nut flushes here. I think I did that on a later version, so I'll pull that up. And check behind is 6.18 equity. So I want to compare that to something I ran if I bet. So I ran a bunch of scenarios. I don't know how to run them all on one Krev, so I just kind of make copies. Here's the bet fold river line. So it's the same hand. And so I added a few things. So here I've got the hand narrowed down. So I think this is a later version. I did this today. And I've changed the range a little bit. Sevens to twos, ace queen. I've got a little bit wider here. I remember this particular villain was slow playing a lot, so that is definitely a key consideration. How he had played up to that point. And then I did filter out what he's checking and betting, and then I just had me raise, and I just basically dead-ended this option since I was more concerned about this equity. I just wanted to filter out the hands that villain would check the flop with, and the rest of the hands I figured they would bet. So I check behind with my suited ace. So it seems like in card runner you have to basically assign the suit post flop. Mention something about that. So I do that, and then I have bet 40 with the rest. I think this was just to narrow the hand down here and get the equities to run, the EVs to run. So then the big blind, this is where it bets 80. So I have big blind betting 80 with two pair sets, flush draws, and then combos. I think, yeah, top pair with a straight draw. I don't know if anything pops up on that. So I'm going to run the equities on that as well. And then let's run them before I get to the end here. And you can see, yeah, so I narrow 13% of his range down. Yeah, this looks like a dead end one. I should probably just edit that. This is non-existent. Maybe top pair with gut shot or more. Let's try that. And F7. Yeah, still not showing up. Yeah, future board cards are not. So anyway, I'm going to leave that there for now. So I come down here and I look at the line on the river. So this is where I made the bigger change, which was basically hero big blind checks, and then I bet, and then I have a call or fold line from the big blind. So what I don't have is a raise line. So I've actually got plus EV to bet or call or fold. This isn't the correct one. Let me pull up the right one. Yeah, same one. Yeah, let's see if I got this right. Yeah, here we go. So in this time I have basically the same setup, and then I have hero leading out with a pot bet, and then taking a bet fold line. So if villain raises, I fold. If villain calls, of course the hand's over, folds. And this has an equity of 4.56, but it's not nearly as high as equity as the 6 I would have gotten just by checking behind. What I didn't assess was, and so I guess, it'd be a little more complicated. I could go back here to the flop and bet, and then do a continuation of, I could probably gotten a fold from the particular holding he had. But was that even more EV? So I didn't want to go through too many iterations, but that's about it. I could attach this file. I think if this is the file I would attach to. So ultimately I ended up betting and calling inexplicably out of stubbornness. Sometimes I go on autopilot. But definitely when I went into this hand, my concept was I was going to bet fold. And I did not execute that plan, which is a leak of mine. Which is a positive equity. That's what I determined, that even though checking behind would have been more profitable, bet fold was reasonably profitable. And I had him calling with top pair, greater than or equal to top pair. It looks like some other hands got, I don't know why these king jacks are in here. That's not top pair. Huh. I'll have to look. Oh, I guess maybe it's two pair. We have weaker two pairs. That's what it is. So there's a few weaker two pairs that are in there, but I don't know. I could probably edit this up. I think this might be a little wide for um, villain getting to the river. Although I guess he could have all these weaker two pairs. Um, oh, he had the flush draws. That because they're weak flush draws, he didn't lead out on the flop with them. They ended up on the river with them. Anyway, I could probably narrow this down and get it more accurate, but at the end of the day, I think I got the information I needed, which was improving my lines, and sometimes checking behind is fine. And if I do take a bet line on the river in this particular hand, I need to bet fold. That is it. Thanks.